G'day everyone, welcome to another episode of Wine Back Wednesday. But before I start on this week's wine, I thought I'd have a bit of a chat about a side note. You may have noticed in recent weeks that I've been focusing on Aussie wines, in many ways South Australian wines. The cellar at home, we've got quite a number of imported wines and I love drinking them as well, but currently the Australian wine industry is a bit of a spot of bother. Due to oversupply, cost of living pressures, industrial and political problems around both here in Australia and globally. I don't think I need to say too much more, but I thought it would be a good idea to focus on a local booze for the short term at least. So if you guys are out and about and you're going to choose a bottle of wine or something to drink somewhere, try and remember to choose local and support the Aussie wineries where you can. All right, without further ado, let's move on to this week's wine. We are in the middle of vintage, or tail end of vintage for us. But the other day, on the weekend, I went for a bit of a drive. I had a bit of time on my hands and went past Hugo Wines on the eastern side of the Vale. It's actually, if you look at it, it's sort of on the eastern foothills of McLaren Flat, which is a little township which is pretty well due east of McLaren Vale. Hugo's been a household name down here in McLaren Vale for a very long time. John Hugo started the wine business, and his great grandfather, George Sauerbier, bought the original estate where they are in 1860. They're about an elevation of about 100 metres there, as it's obviously gradually moves up into the foothills, heading towards sort of the southern end of the Adelaide Hills. And then John's parents planted the first vineyard on the property, some bushvine Grenache, in 1951. And in 1968, John, after working with his old man for a number of years, sort of as he's growing up, pottering around in the vineyard, whatever, decided that he would make wine his career. So in 1982, they opened their cellardoor, and more recently, in the last number of years, one of the sons, Will, has joined the business and helping out, sort of running the day-to-day operations and the vineyards and what have you. And Renae Hirsch is their consultant winemaker. 2025 Fiano is done well. They're all the wines they make are all small batch sort of style stuff. They sell a bit of fruit, they make some fruit for themselves. They made a decision in 2021 to graft a few of their blocks, like the Chardonnay some of the Chardonnay was grafted to Fiano and a bit of Grenache Gris, and then they also put in some Nero d'Avola and I think a couple of other varieties as well. Obviously, those varieties sort of are probably more successful or more suited to the conditions down here, and obviously we see climate change and more unpredictable weather we're having. Vintage on vintage, they're probably a good approach, much like many of the other growers in the district. Fiano obviously comes down from the southern part of Italy, in Campania and Sicily most in particular, so it really suits this Mediterranean climate we have down here in McLaren Vale. 2025 in particular was pretty dry. We only had, I think, between about early September and through to the end of March, we only had about not even an inch of rain through here. It was very dry, and in spots there was quite hot spells as well. So the Fiano, because of its heritage, really enjoyed those conditions, and the 2025 wines are pretty solid. This was hand-picked off their block. It was processed pretty quickly in the morning, fermented cool, about 40% older French oak, and then the balance 60% in stainless steel, much like what we do here at Smidge. Ours is typically about 20-25% barrel ferment and the rest in stainless steel. We used to do a skin contact component, but I did pull away from that a number of years ago for a few reasons. which I can discuss another time. But here we're talking about the Hugo Fiano today. Without further ado, let's give it a go. They repackaged. I remember as a late teens, and in my 20s, coming across the Hugo Wines, the reds in particular. There was more Shiraz and Cabernet and a bit of Grenache at the time. Solid, well-made wines, year in, year out. I was working at a bottle shop, independent bottle shop in Adelaide, going through uni, and always a crowd pleaser with a lot of the punters that came in the door. But they repackaged things, and as I said, been going from strength to strength. So they've been going since the first vineyard plant in 1951. So a testament to them, and they're coming on now to obviously Colin, John's father planted the vineyard, then John, and then now Will's involved. So there's a good succession of family generations there, very generational. All right, so 12.5% alcohol, lovely pale straw, bit of a green hue. A little bit of lee stirring I saw as well, so obviously adding a bit more texture and weight in theory, filling in what I call the potholes in the palate. As you do that lovely creaminess and richness and characters from the lees just fill in the wine and add a bit of texture and mouthfeel. You smell like Fiano. There's a lovely oatmeal note. There's some nuttiness note to it in a positive way. Some lovely citrus notes. So nashi pears as well. There's a bit of that nuttiness is probably from that oaken lee stirring component. But really fresh and inviting. You can smell it. It's fresh and full and got some richness, but even only 12.5% alcohol. And on the palate, as the pears and citrus come through, and some nice little bit of texture there. That lovely dry mealiness you get from that oatmeal character you get from Fiano, as it is, as a character of its variety. Overall, I don't think McLaren Vale has really settled on a particular style of Fiano and how it's made. Some of us are using oak and stainless, some people are just using stainless, some people are doing oak, stainless and skin contact and other probably vessels as well. But I think it's really making good inroads into the market here in McLaren Vale and really been accepted by the consumers that come through. But I'm looking. The beauty about Fiano is it's got a lovely natural acidity, like many other Italian varietals as well. But with that extra bit of oak, I find for ourselves as well, with the oak component, it really adds another dimension. So the wine's got enough acidity and freshness to be drunk by itself, but because of that extra bit of texture, and these guys have done a bit of leaf stirring as well, so another layer as well, really lends itself to food. So it's very much like those Italian, Spanish and Portuguese varieties in many ways, that they do have this lovely acidity about them, which and they just scream for food. So I think the indigenous varieties of those countries have really risen, the ones that really suited the food consumption have really risen to the top, and we are now seeing a few of them over here in the last sort of 10 to 20 or so years. So there we go, the 2025 Hugo Fiano. That looks looking very smart. So thanks for listening. We'll speak to you soon. Cheers.